Hey, and welcome to another conversation of Pagans Talk Cancer. Um, and with me today is Hale, and we're going to discuss their journey with this dreadful, wicked, yucky disease, and hopefully will benefit you by knowing that you're not alone, because this can be very lonely, even if you're surrounded by people. Um,
Exactly.
So, talk about your when you first got diagnosed. What was that like?
It was really rough. So basically, I had some testing done where they were testing like the antibodies that were in my body from my thyroid cancer. And well, I hadn't been diagnosed yet, but you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
So they tested my antibodies as like kind of like a random test. And my antibodies were at like 12,000, which is absolutely fucking unheard of. So the doctor that did it was like a thyroid optimizing specialist. And I don't know why I went to her. It was just one of those things where my mom was like, I think you have thyroid problems and you should probably go. Here's this doctor that I'm seeing. They literally wiped my data. Like all of my testing disappeared. I was no longer a like patient, like period. Like I could not find any of my info. And I was like, okay, that's fucked up and I have to figure out what's going on here. So I was
Wow.
just like sitting there for like nights upon nights upon nights, just looking at this printout of this testing that had the antibodies. And I was just like, something is really not right here, but I can't put my finger on it and I don't know where to start and I don't know where to go. And eventually I had to go to the ER because I was having some like chest pain. And a scan happened to catch that there were nodules in my thyroid. And I actually didn't even get told this by the doctor. I get all of my test results through this medical system, like to my
Or
inbox,
they do.
basically,
Yeah.
like they do now these days. And I saw it actually in the description of the scan. And I was like, hold on, that's weird. And so I ended up getting a new PCP and brought these test results up to him. And I was like, hey, what do you think we should do about this? And he was like, well, let's get you started with an ultrasound and we'll see where it goes. I literally did not see him after that point, like until I was like about to have surgery. But, anyways, so they did an ultrasound. They found out that I had like these really big nodules. At that point, they were tumors. So then they scheduled me for a biopsy, and it was one of the scariest medical experiences of my life. Like, they had me just lay it out on a table, and they were like, okay, we're going to stick a bunch of needles, like giant needles, like this long,
Yeah.
into your thyroid, and we're going to like wiggle it around and see what cells we can get. And I was like, this sounds odd, but okay. Had a straight up panic attack during it because at one point he was like, okay, for this part, I need you to not breathe and not move because I could nick your windpipe if you're not careful. So I was like, okay, that's a lot to come in with like no expectations of what's happening. And they ended up like playing music for me on their like little robot thing that they had to like try to calm me down. And then they were like sending it off for testing. And they were like, okay, but we still can't give you results. We have to send it off for further testing. So basically, they went through the process of like genetically testing it to see whether or not it was 100% cancerous or not. And so I was waiting probably about like 2 months in total for
Holy
like all of these
smokes.
results.
Wow. That had to be excruciating.
Yeah, it was. And I was like working at the time. So it was like so rough. Like there was a one point I was supposed to get a phone call from my doctor and I was waiting like all day for it. I started work and like was on like maybe my second call and finally got the call from my doctor and she was like, "Hey, so we're sending it off for more genetic testing." Like we're pretty sure that we know what's happening, but we just want to confirm everything. And at that point, I was pretty certain it was cancer.
Yeah.
And so finally, I got like the official call, like January 14th, 2021, that they were like, hey, this is actually cancer. We need to operate immediately to get it taken care of. And that same day I quit my job. Like I had already taken off like 2 weeks and I just hadn't called in. I hadn't done anything. I just basically abandoned my job. And for some reason, they didn't fire me.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, well, I mean, getting that kind of news, even though you have that suspicion, back
Hmm.
here, but getting the reality,
Yeah.
it's different. It's different with, wonder what if, what if it is a big, there is a massive for me, there was a massive Grand Canyon gap between biopsy and diagnosis.
Yeah.
You, you
They
know,
don't
and
talk about how long of a wait it is
and it
between
doesn't
those two
matter whether
things.
it's later on that day, whether it's, I can't imagine 2 months, because I
Yeah.
didn't, on my second cancer, they did the biopsy and pretty much that day I knew, you
Yeah.
know, but I can't, yeah, I just, I didn't get a call from them. I, like you, I looked it up, and broke out my Google foo,
Yeah.
I'm like, what's up,
I was
Uh,
not waiting that 2 months with no information.
yeah. All right. So let's talk about let's bring Dee into this. How was that relationship? Were you pagan at this time? Or
I was, yes, I was
okay.
pagan at the time. I was still in my beginner phase though. Like
Okay.
I had a roommate at the time that was like parenting me through it, but like they were kind of an awful person. So
Okay.
I had like the wrong starting foot there.
Right. Which is really helpful there in the midst of all this. So I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, so what did you do as far as did you do any kind of meditations? Did you do any type of spell work? Anything?
Yeah, I did a lot
Okay.
of meditation. I hadn't really gotten very far into spell work at the time, so I didn't do any like spells or anything, but I definitely did a lot of meditating and a lot of communing with my gods to be like, hey, how do I handle this? How do I cope? Things like that.
Did you get comfort in that?
Yeah, I did. I
Good.
got a lot of comfort that way.
Um, well, now comes up, the other part of cancer that people don't talk about is your treatment.
Yeah.
You know, so with you specifically, you had to have surgery,
Yeah.
right? And they removed the thyroid. I don't know that much about thyroid cancer, so you're gonna have to kind of
That's fair.
walk me through this.
Yeah, so that was in itself its own crazy process because like I also was uninsured at the time because I had quit my
Okay.
job.
Yeah.
I actually got approved like the same weekend I did my thyroid surgery for Medicaid, so they were able to cover it 100%, but I had to crowdfund $2,000 roughly to like actually afford the surgery and for them to be like, okay, yeah, we'll do it, even though you don't have insurance. So I had to set up a GoFundMe, which
Wow.
was in itself a crazy process, as always.
I can't imagine. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like all of my former coworkers and like all the people that I had known growing up locally, like they all donated heavily to it and
Yeah.
my current friends at the time. So I was able to get the surgery, but it was like kind of a close call. And it was also awful because like I couldn't get the funds out of the GoFundMe and into my account in time. And so I had to like talk to my mom and be like, hey, so this is a lot of money, but like I'm going to have it. And she just wrote me a check. And I was like, oh, so we could have done this the entire time. We just had to have the money first. Got it. Got it,
Builds
mom.
character.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean,
But yeah,
and people, I know you got covered through the state, but I mean,
yeah.
people don't talk about how expensive it is.
No, they don't. Like
You-
it was an insane amount of money that they were like going to require if I didn't have insurance. Like I can't imagine having
Yeah,
to
there's a
crowdfund
couple
that
commas in
cost.
it. Yeah, I mean, not one comma. There's a couple.
Yeah.
No, I've seen the bills. I
Yeah.
mean, it's crazy. I mean, yeah, I had insurance, but still, you've got, deductible, and you got max out of pocket, and then
Yeah.
even with that, you still got copays and the medications, and I mean, it's just, and on top of all that, you're not working.
Yep.
So, yeah. Um, so wh- what is the after effects of that? What is, I mean, because there's kind of two parts to this, right? Because you've got the trauma of having cancer, right?
Yeah.
And then now you've got the, okay, you're cancer free because we've surgically removed it.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more, because now you've got all this other stuff that you have to do because the part that you need, you don't have anymore.
Yeah.
So your body doesn't work,
Yeah.
and so what has that experience been like?
It's been tough. For a long time, they had me at the wrong dosage actually for my levothyroxine.
You're like the
So
poster
for that
child, aren't you?
first year, it was just basically garbage.
Wow. All right,
Yeah.
so help for those people that don't understand or know, including me. Um, Talk about what your thyroid does,
So
what
your
makes it
thyroid
important.
actually is the part of you that like handles your metabolism. It handles like the way that you break down certain things. It keeps your levels like even basically. Like it's kind of like that systemic process of keeping everything afloat. So it's like my weight ballooned after I had to have my thyroid out. And like the first year that I was on levothyroxine, I was on way too low of a dose. Like they probably should have started me at like the upper 200s point, and it's in micrograms, so it's even harder to understand. Like you can understand milligrams to a certain degree, but micrograms out of mind. Like you can't understand that. So for the first year, I was basically just treading water. Like I never had enough energy. I was exhausted constantly. And I just always felt like something was just really wrong with the dosage that I was at. And they were constantly fluctuating it, constantly adjusting it. And I didn't really have much faith in the endocrinologist that I was seeing at the time. So that was even harder. um I'm also trans, so I started transitioning during that year period as well, which was really fun.
That's
So just
crazy.
all around having to deal with different like fluctuations and stuff in my hormones was rough.
On top of not having a thyroid.
Yeah.
So one of my cancers was surgically removed, so it's like, okay, you have cancer, now you don't have cancer.
Yeah.
But um, there's all this other stuff, that you've now got to deal with, even with that, because everything changes, right?
Yeah.
Things I liked, flavors that I liked before, I didn't necessarily, they tasted different.
Yeah.
My cravings were, I mean, I've never really been a junk food kind of person. I've liked, some, I'm I'm a toddler, when it comes to
Hmm.
junk food, right? Captain Crunch berries,
Yeah.
I can polish off a box, right?
Yeah.
But and that's not, but it's like I haven't had them in like a decade. And it's like
Hmm.
now all of a sudden I'm craving them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I have these strange, I don't know how yours is, but it's like I have these strange food cravings now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Or
that
did
first
you?
year was a lot of sugar,
Yeah, I don't know
unfortunately.
what it is. It's just like I'm a junk foodaholic.
Yeah.
It's no, I don't want that. I want, yeah, whatever has massive amounts of sugar. I lived on cereal and ice cream probably for the first couple of months after I
Yeah.
had surgery, because it's just and maybe it's just your body needing that, you know direct main line of sugar to operate. Because you're so whacked.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's part of it, but also sugar is usually what powers cancer often and not enough. Like,
It's
so that's one of the big scary parts.
Yeah, it's like a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Your body, this is what your body wants.
Hmm.
Have you done any during the time that afterwards? Because I'm asking this because I think it's really, really important, because your energy, for me, after mine was at the bottom, right? We just
Yeah.
talked about that. It was just tanked, and I was challenged with any type of magical working. Yeah, and I've been pagan since the 90s, right? So it's,
Yeah.
I know how to raise energy, right? I know you
Yeah.
don't use your own, and so nobody at me, right? Because I'm pretty good at that. But what you don't understand is it takes energy to raise energy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just, did you struggle with that too? And if so, what would you do about it? Or did you do anything about it?
I definitely struggled with it. My spouse kind of refers to me as a fountain because I'm able to just like constantly replenish my energy. But it turns out that those people are the most exhausted people. So it's always really funny to be like, yeah, you have energy, but no, you don't.
And it's frustrating because your life changes,
Yeah.
because the way you used to be, you're not that way anymore.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
spent decades, right,
Hmm.
being a certain way, and then literally overnight, you're not like that anymore.
Yeah.
It's,
Like
you know,
it's crazy the day and night difference.
yeah. And how have you adapted in the beginning? What was that like?
It was a lot of relying on the elements at that point, like relying on earth energy, relying on air energy, things like that, like lots of fire energy as well, because that gave me like the sustenance to go forward. So it was a lot of relying on the elements and relying on my gods to like help me through stuff. I
Do
didn't do a
you,
lot of spell work that first year just because like it was exhausting just existing. So I couldn't imagine trying to do spell work during that time.
can you talk about how you work with the elements? Because I think that's very interesting. How did you, what did that look like? Walk me through that.
So it would be like meditating, like sitting on the ground specifically and like pulling energy up from the earth, or like lighting a candle and like hovering my hands over it and harnessing the energy of that flame.
Nice.
Obviously safely. But windy days, I loved to sit outside on my porch and just feel that energy like all around me. That was always really healing for me.
Because I think once again, people don't really understand you don't have any.
Yeah,
And to
there's
feel
none to be
something
had.
is, and to have that tangible, feeling, is comforting because it's lacking. You
Yeah,
know, it's yeah. I mean, it's a vacuum. It's
yeah.
lacking. You know, um. So how is the pagan community? Because we talked about that a little bit off before we started the recording about it. But how did you find the pagan community as you were going through all this?
Honestly, I didn't really have much community at all. Like I had my roommate at the time, which we talked about, like was not very supportive and pretended to be supportive, but wasn't actually supportive and very cutthroat about how they dealt with me. So I didn't really have much community because they kind of like cut me off from it. But I did try to interact with like some of the communities in like my town, my hometown and stuff. And that helped a little bit, but it was kind of like the point of where like nobody really knows what to say when you're going through something traumatic like that. Like they just don't. And that's always been an issue for the pagan community, I feel like. But it's tough just because like I understand. Like the entire time my first year, I was dealing with people constantly being like, "Oh, I'm sorry you're going through this, but I don't know how to help you," type thing. And that was really rough, but like I ended up like understanding it to a degree just because like I don't even know how to cope with this. I completely understand why you're unable to, just as a person not dealing with it yourself.
Well,
So I found a lot of community in like other people who had cancer, basically.
right. And I think our culture, just removing the pagan community, but our culture as we are, we don't
Yeah,
deal with that.
no,
We don't deal with death. We don't deal. I mean, a lot of that stuff. Okay, well,
that
call me
happens
when
to
you're
other
better.
people. That has nothing to do with
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Call me when you're better. But I also think, I think individually, we also, as a community, we need to take ownership of. We need to be open, a little bit more understanding, more than thoughts and prayers. Right? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be ugly about it, but that's kind of what you get.
yeah, it
But
is. It
I
really
also
is.
Yeah, but I also think we need to be better as individuals to also know we need to ask for help,
Yeah,
because I am the world's worst for asking for help because I don't need help.
yeah,
You know,
same.
help is weakness, and I'm not. You know what I mean? So, I did have a couple of really close friends, that I did ask for help, that helped me with certain things I just couldn't do, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it was crushing.
Hmm.
to ask for that, you know.
Yeah.
But I also, I think looking back, I wish I would have done more because I do think people want to help, they
Yeah.
just don't know how, and because they don't know how, they don't do anything.
Yeah. That's
You, you,
exactly it.
and once again looking back on, my beloved, my spouse,
Hmm.
was my caregiver, and so she was literally, you know, she was able to work from home, so she was literally taking care of me through all of this, right?
Yeah.
Still does.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest. Um, but not everybody has that situation,
No.
right? And even with that, she's taking care of her, the household, cooking, that kind of. It would have been
Yeah.
nice if meals would have been primo,
Yeah.
to have some meals, drop some nice home cooked. I, Bojangles would have been cool every now and then.
Yeah.
I mean, but just a little thing that you don't think about, I think would have been very welcomed.
Yeah.
At minimum, I don't know what to do, but I can do this, and I need to say, is there anything I can do to help? I can say, yeah, you can fix me some vittles.
Yeah.
Yeah, take Julie out to a movie or something, my beloved.
Yeah.
So because it's hard, and
Yeah.
sometimes you needing that break, and something as simple as a meal is huge,
Yeah.
and as a community, we suck at that. We
Yeah.
really suck at trauma and dealing with people that are going through major events, I
Yeah.
think. But I
I
also
agree.
think it's because we don't know how, so we don't do anything.
Yeah, we're very much as a society very focused on like everyone needs to be self-sufficient, but when you're dealing with cancer and you're dealing with like so many other like traumas and stuff like that, there's no room for that. So I feel like it would be helpful if like people are like, "Hey, maybe you don't have to worry about dinner tonight. Maybe that's on me tonight." Like that would have been really nice actually for me to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's a dash card,
Yeah.
here's $50 on a dash card. Get yourself whatever it is you want,
Yeah.
or yeah, I think that's so. Going through, what was there any time through your cancer process that you were worried about death?
Yes. I was going through a lot like a couple years ago. I actually got diagnosed with heart failure uh, because of COVID, of course.
Yeah.
And so dealing with COVID like a couple of times, like that was very alienating because the first time I was actually at the tail end of my relationship with that roommate that I had lived with when I got diagnosed with cancer. And it was really rough just because like I was very suddenly cut off from all of the friends I had. I moved to a completely different city to try to get away from everything. And it was just me on my own, basically. Like I didn't really have very many friends. I didn't have a community. So it was just kind of like struggling through like being sick on my own. And like for the first time I didn't live in the same city as my mom, so it was really tough to not have at least family to fall back on. And she would come up and like visit me a couple of times and stuff, but like I was just on my own and it really sucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
And
was really rough.
so do you hold, so how long have you been cancer free or
So
remission? It depends on, yeah, they call it different stuff. Did you have to have radiation afterwards as well?
yeah, I did actually have to have radiation within the next like year, which they actually should. I found out that they should have done it like right after surgery because that has like the best like proven effort of being able to conquer it. I'm still fighting. Like I've never been put into remission. I've been having my goalposts moved every 6 months, which has been the most infuriating thing to deal with.
And for people that don't understand, that follow-up visit is a
Hmm.
mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mother, because I mean, even now, I had surgery and I have to have a CT scan. I'm still at every 6 months
Yeah.
still. Um, and every 6 months for the other cancer, right? So they're
Yeah.
like every 3 months I get to go through this. You block it. I block it out, right?
Yeah.
So it's yeah. I'm still in recovery because I'm just right at 6 months from the radiation part. So I'm in remission technically.
Yeah.
But I've still got we're going to check again in 6 months, see how you're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
It's always another 6 months.
and I'm like this, all right, I'm in remission, yay, yay me. And until, I haven't had another one for the radiation, but for the CT scan, it's a bear the night before because
Yeah.
it's like, if it comes back, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And it's that
It's
whole
always the
thing,
night
and you're
before that
like,
you think about it too.
yeah, and you relive all that shit within a, like 12-hour period, and it's just, it's dreadful.
Hmm.
And it's amazing. My beloved and I I'll go get the CT scan, and we go get something to eat, and we just kind of pretend it doesn't exist as we wait on the edge of, the cliff.
Yeah.
You know, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's a
It
hard
really
day.
sucks.
That's a hard day.
Yeah.
Um, because you're constantly, even though you always have that fear in the
Hmm.
back of your mind because you're never you're a survivor.
Yeah.
Even though you're cancer free, you're still a cancer survivor, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a past tense.
Mm-mm.
It's a present tense.
Yeah.
For me it is. It's like, okay, well, I'm now, trying to work on building my strength back, and I mean, it's just it's a road.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've got this checked off, but now I've got all these other things I got to do to get
Yeah.
back to where I was, right?
Especially with the comorbidities, like all the other things that follow, just because you do have this one starting point, like it just sucks.
And then, if you have two, now you're more prone, and then
Yeah.
and it's like, every time I go to the doctor, I feel like I'm taking my car to the dealership.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for him to find something else wrong.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just rough. Um, is there anything like Hale that you'd like to add?
Um, Honestly, I'm trying to think. Like, I think it's really funny, like when you go to have like the scans done or you go to have like radiation done, and they're like, by the way, this can cause other cancers, just so
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. It's
It's like, cool, I already have one. I'm not trying to like collect them all here.
right.
Like,
Yeah. It's not like, did I visit all 50 states? How many
yeah,
cancers I got? Yeah.
I
Wait
got
a
my
minute.
punch card
I'm missing
filled.
this one. Yeah, I'd like to have that one. Yeah, I want that one right there.
Yeah, that one sounds particularly cool. I think I should do that.
And radiation is horrible.
Yeah. Radiation was honestly really tough for me because, like, they have like permanent chairs in there that are supposed to be like your support system, like who's coming with you. And I had nobody. So I was just sitting there with two empty chairs beside me, like, all right, this is looking to be a great day.
Well, I mean, I went pretty much for all of mine,
Yeah.
except the time that we met with the doctor. It was like once, I think it was like once a week we met with
Yeah.
the doctor, and my beloved would come with me for that. But other than that, it was, I did it on my own.
Yeah.
And where I had mine, I call it the Bat Cave, but it was like the special entrance is underneath the hospital. It was like you get in this
Yeah.
garage, right? And you just take the elevator straight up, so you bypass all that other. You didn't have to have special code to get in. So you got to make fun of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because you
You
got to
have
find,
to.
you know. So I was like, okay, this is like my own private Bat Cave, right? So I would go upstairs and I do the radio, and you know, it's hard because I'm trying to hold it together through the process,
Yeah.
and then after radiation, I'd go down to the car and I would just fall apart,
Yeah. Same.
because I'm thinking, I am on purpose killing a part of myself that's trying to kill me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what it is, and it's just really hard to have that active decision every day.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like when I went through radiation, it was like a forgotten wing kind of area of the hospital that I had to go to. That was like, you checked in, you sat in this tiniest waiting area I've ever seen. And then they pull you
Like
back
six
to like
chairs.
do all these scans and stuff. And it's crazy.
Yeah,
They
there's like
don't
six
talk
chairs.
about that part of it.
Yeah, and where I was, it's just like you. It's like a wing that's blocked off. So
Yeah.
you had to have a special code to get back there.
Yeah.
You just don't wind up there because you're lost. because
Yeah.
you can't, you got to be there on purpose. And, you know, first few times I was there, I was looking around and it's like, I'm not sure I belong here.
Yeah.
You know, like I was on a, bad episode of Sesame Street. All these
Yeah.
things are not like the other. You
Hmm.
know, it's,
Like, I'm not sure I'm supposed to be here, but they told me I have to be here. So here I am.
well, so what's your normal like now? I know you're still waiting, you're still in the process of it being remission and all, but I mean,
Yeah.
do you find yourself trying to just, is your energy coming back? Is how are you, how is all that working out? How are you doing? I guess is
Energy
my
is
question.
definitely coming back, which
Okay.
is fantastic. Love
And
that for me.
and how long ago were we talking? How long ago was your surgery?
So my surgery was in February of 2021. So it's been
Okay.
a hot minute.
Yeah.
Um, and I had radiation done in March of 2023, which I had it done over my birthday.
Nice. Hey.
So I
Hey.
had my birthday cake and then I immediately went into isolation. So that
Nice.
was rough. And they don't really talk about that whole part of where like you have to lock your pets out of your room. What? Like I can't hold my children. What do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. They don't realize that you're actually radioactive.
Yeah. And getting the little card that you have to take to the airport with you if you have to take a flight, like, oh God, that scared me.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
now are you doing okay now? Is things kind of, you said your energy's coming back and,
yeah,
you
energy is
know,
definitely coming back. Getting closer to remission, which is nice. Kind of just watching everything fall into place has been really nice, especially after like basically uprooting my life to go through cancer treatment.
yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. Now, are you going to plan on doing any kind of celebration when you finally get the, you know, hey, you're in remission?
Definitely going to have a party. It's going
Yeah.
to be a full 24-hour party.
Yeah.
I'm going
We're
to
gonna push
party
the
like
limit.
I was in my 20s.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're on a pretty good road, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask you once again, is there anything you want to leave us with?
Um, Definitely just relying on your gods. Like the entire time I've been going through all my medical stuff, I have just fallen back on my deities and like reaching out to them to be like, hey, things are tough. And they're like, I know, bud. It's kind of funny, but no, it's been the most support I've ever received, like in any way.
I think the relationship changes.
Yeah.
It has with me. I'm a priest in the Morgan, and I was pretty tight before, and it's a different level. It's not like we're tighter. It's
Yeah.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is because I think it changes the intimacy.
Yeah. It does.
Because I mean you're dealing with death.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you may or may not survive.
Yeah.
And when you're faced with that, your outlook changes just a little bit. Mine
Yeah.
does. Mine does. I can't speak for everybody, but mine, I definitely see things differently now than I did 2 years ago.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Like, I definitely see things so much differently than when I first started.
And I'm grateful, for that part. Be honest with you, I'm kind of grateful. I really wish I didn't have. I'm not saying I'm thankful I went through cancer because I'm not.
Right.
Um, I'm, I'm, I'm. There are days I'm grateful I'm still here.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of days to where I don't nobody call don't call nobody. I'm okay. But
Yeah.
there were days. It wasn't a matter of having suicidal thoughts. There were thoughts of I just don't want to be here.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to have to experience this right now.
Yeah, I just
It's
don't
like, can
want
I
to.
just check out?
Yeah, I just don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. Yeah,
Yeah.
this isn't fun
Dissociation,
anymore.
big time.
It's like
I think that's
not,
how I managed.
it's yeah. So thanks for coming and being
Yeah.
so honest, and jumping on this. I think these are conversations that are important
Yeah.
for our community, and if anybody that's watching this, knows of someone or wants to share their story, please do, because I think these are important conversations to have, because I mean, there's a lot of it out there, and I'm finding out the more people that I talk to with pagans that have cancer, there's no support system for it.
Yeah.
because our belief systems aren't mainstream, regardless of what we think or want. They're not
Mhm.
mainstream, and people don't know how to understand it.
Yeah.
My treatment was at a Baptist hospital.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for my treatment because it was excellent, but I didn't fit with their spiritual support system.
Yeah.
And I think, as a community, we need to get better at that,
Yeah.
because, if you don't have it, we need to figure out a way to build it.
Yep. Exactly.
Whether we're Wiccan or polytheistic or heathen or, all that, I'm gonna be honest with you, in the middle of all that, none of that mattered.
Yeah.
I didn't care, who
Yeah.
who who was what where, just yeah. So I mean, it definitely changes, and I think we need to. That's one area I think as a community as a whole we need to get a lot better on. Where we
Yeah.
just, there's a part to where, okay, yeah, I don't have anybody controlling how I do the things that I do, and I think that's epic. But at the same time, we're still all connected,
Yeah.
right? I mean, as humans, we're pack animals.
Hmm.
We are. You
We
may
are
want to be a
definitely.
hermit, live solitary, but most people don't survive that. That's
Yeah.
why solitary confinement's so detrimental. We're not made as a species. We're not. That's not how we're supposed to work. And I think we need to work better at that.
Yeah. I
All
agree
right.
wholeheartedly.
I'm off my soapbox now. That's my. that's
You're
Hale,
allowed.
thank you. I thank you. I appreciate it. Once again, feel free to comment. And please do and share this with everybody, that people that watch it, because I think even though you may not have it, you may know someone. Chances are you know someone that does have it, and
Yeah.
it might help you understand where they are and
Hmm.
what you can do to kind of help support them, because that's, I'm telling you, meals would have been huge in our life going
Yeah.
through this. Something simple like that you can do, and you can make a huge difference in somebody's life. So, thanks. I appreciate it.